Stop typing. If you've come here from the Greek Islands playlist and you're assuming that we didn't know that Cyprus is not part of the modern state of Greece, we know. Everyone knows. Are you just desperate for everyone to appreciate your overwhelming intellect that resides under that fedora you're undoubtedly wearing? Hey everyone! Great news! The Lord Rear Admiral of Geography here is deemed to pay us a visit! But yes, Cyprus is somewhat unique in that it's the only other nation to speak Greek as a first language, and more to the point, particularly after crisscrossing Crete, not a million miles away or of entirely different size, it makes for an interesting like-for-like comparison at what a Greek island without the Greek state can be like. Pedants, you can go dribble on an encyclopedia. Nationalists of all kinds can go ahead and choose soil since you're so fond of it. So we had a bit of a late flight to get there. Definitely felt each of the 4.5 hours it took. First impressions, well, the Larnaca terminal is surprisingly large and shiny inside, and likewise the airport bus. Normally at Greek airports they're showing the cracks a bit by the time you leave the terminal, but this was all extremely clean and tidy. It was 11 PM, so not aiming to do much this day, but the light rain smelt amazing. Smells like hot country. Nice Airbnb with, oh, hey look, British sockets. That's handy. Well, up at 5:30 to go and catch a 6 AM sunrise, because sleeping is for losers, but looks like there's not a lot of sun to go round. The clouds were a last-minute addition. We had been forecast pretty much wall-to-wall sunshine for the week. Well, okay, while we look around, there's noticeably a lot more English, and it's not just the language. I have never seen a Cafe Nero's outside of the UK. In fact, Greece doesn't really go for international brands all that much. Low-angle flag shot, you did see some Cypriot flags, but a lot of Greek flags flying as well. There's still splashes of familiar Greek stuff, but it's noticeably a very different vibe on Cyprus. Was relieved to see this Greek brand for sure. Quick look around Larnaca Castle, which is a little fortlet on the beach. The sun was finally attempting a cameo appearance while still hurriedly pulling its trousers up like, oh, sorry everyone, sorry. Fredo espresso from the island. Okay, so now I feel like I'm in Greek mode. Past the Church of St. Lazarus, you'll excuse my church crawling side coming out a sec, but since Cyprus had been something of a crusader state when it was ruled by French Lusignan for most of the High Middle Ages, it was fascinating to see the fusion of Byzantine with elements of Western Gothic. Well, fascinating for me anyway, your mileage might vary. Had a bit more of a wander. It was messing with my head that while there's so much English around, that smell I described, I wasn't kidding. The smell is what makes it feel like you're in Greece. And to be clear, I'm not talking about a bad smell. It's hard to describe. It's sort of a blend of dust with the whiff of certain like soaps or cleaning products you get when you walk past certain apartment buildings, and probably the aroma of a few native trees that I can't identify. Now, I know that sounds like a diss. I swear it's not. If I could bottle that aroma, I'd spray it around my house every day. It's the smell that's been in the background for some of the best mornings of my life. To look at, Larnaca actually reminded me most of the more modern parts of Antalya, but yeah, whichever way you look at it, funny mix of the familiar English with the familiar, though slightly less so, Greek. Quick espresso from here, and can confirm, the Cypriots, like the Greeks, are not messing around with their coffee, which makes it all the weirder to then have Costa on the corner like, why are you here? The Cypriots have clearly got this covered. Anywho, it's off to the races, by which I mean a hire car place via the airport. So this was a nice chilled out company that wasn't that pricey, and off we go. Now, Cyprus is unusual as it's a left-hand drive kind of a place. And while drivers are noticeably less careful than England, they're quite a bit more careful than Greece for the most part, and a lot more careful than Palermo, though that's not saying much as we discovered 2 months previous. If everyone on Sicily drove drunk, it would probably improve the standards of driving, but that's a story for another time. This is where I keep my powder dry and my script a manageable length by not going too deep into the ancient stuff we saw, but by complete chance happened upon a small village of Tokni, which had this gorgeous church and even this ruin on the hillside above it, so that was awesome. So with that, it's time to go back to the UK. And we're here. God save the King. God save the... Now, geography know-it-alls are already rolling their eyes, but for the rest of us, I mean, I should say the rest of you, I am clearly the type of insufferable geography boff that I claim to decry. No, wait! Come back! We haven't discussed Nagorno-Karabakh! So even after Cyprus gained independence in 1960, the British still kept 2 chunks of land around the air bases of Akrotiri and Dekelia. I still haven't been able to find out why they felt the need to grab such large chunks. I mean, if you need more than 2 or 3 square miles for an airfield, then you're just goofing around. Anyway, I was waiting, camera raised, for some sort of signage or flag or crocodile moat or anything, but there was no indication that you'd entered the realm, not so much as one buttered crumpet. Unclear what would happen if we committed some crimes on Cypriot soil before running into the sovereign base area yelling, "Sanctuary!" Somewhat doubt the Cypriot police would stop at the non-existent line and shake their fists like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Anyway, the main reason we were here was not geographical anomalies, but this vast Roman archaeological site. The Roman stuff around Kurion is particularly great, not least because of its mosaics and its views down the coast. I'm not going to deep dive here, but it's good if you have, you know, niche interests. It had gotten pretty hot, so we were about ready to seek cover. Quick visit to the castle and aqueduct at Colossi. Drove back again past Limassol. We didn't really have time to drop into it on this trip, but it is massive. It seems to take forever to drive past, and they certainly seem to be going all in with the skyscraper production. Them's is springing up all over. Just had time to drop in on a couple of things in Larnaca before they closed, including the Archaeological Museum, which was really quite something, and some great finds in there, despite its comparatively small footprint from the outside. Then, just a bit of a chance to relax in the town. Had a Freddo espresso from here, which I think gave me the temporary ability to fly. It was really good. Also, a double espresso from this place, which was likewise spot on. Yeah, in Larnaca, you are really spoiled for great coffee. I'm so used to going to a Greek coffee shop and getting a Kalimera. It was a bit strange walking in and going, "You alright, mate? What are you having?" That took some getting used to. I will say, though, it is very hard to find the same place twice. I mean, I pride myself on being able to follow my nose pretty well in unknown cities, but Larnaca can kind of have you going in circles or down cul-de-sacs that you hope would connect somewhere. There are some coffee places that I end up going round in circles just to try and find again the next day. So we drove to the Salt Lake for sunset. This is a shallow, brackish lake that's just inland by the airport. Seems strange they felt the need to clarify that you shouldn't drive across the lake. Like, was someone in such a hurry to cross they just didn't fancy going around the 2 square kilometre body of water? We ended up having dinner at the waterfront at this place, which was overpriced, but pretty tasty, so whatever. And like a true rock star, I think I crashed out about 9 PM, but look, give me a break, I only got about 5 hours sleep in the previous. Okay, well, quick coffee in the morning at Coffee Bike, which was brilliant, just brilliant. And we're off out of town again. We were aiming for Paphos, which is the other side of the island, but because the motorway there is decent, it's not even 2 hours to get all of the way over. Oh wait, we're in the UK again. Victorious! And we're out. Hey, you want to see us be in the UK for 10 seconds? 3, 2, 1, go! And we're out. So we drifted into Paphos. The weather was getting a little bit more overcast, and despite blue skies on the drive, by the time we parked up at the castle, it was completely overcast, so that's a bit of a downer. So saw the Roman ruins there, which is this big UNESCO site in Paphos. Lots of mosaics to see. Saw some of the other sites, which won't be of the highest priority to most of you, so we'll save those for the future. Got a chance to see further down the Paphos coast into what was definitely more of the resort land. Look, I know the clouds don't help, but it wasn't looking great. We stopped off in the tombs of the kings. Now, with Jen as my witness, I said on the way in, I really doubt that the burials here are of any monarchs. And ha! Called it. Now, actually, this place is a pretty good call for all ages. It's a strikingly mysterious landscape, and you're never sure what you'll discover around the next corner. This is tomb 1, right by the entrance, and this is quite something. I had to resist the urge not to lie down in one of these alcoves, then wait for the next family to come in before bursting out like, "You have disturbed my slumber!" But the more you explore the site, the more remarkable bits you discover, including these in the centre. Now, Larnaca isn't the most historic town, but probably avoid staying around Paphos. I'm sure there's more of a central part geared towards normal Cypriots rather than all this tourist stuff, but, well, sorry guys, even the historic part of town, it's a little bit of a dump. Also, kind of deserted. Even the coffee didn't look that good, apart from, well, we'll call this composition the sacred and the profane. Made a last-minute choice to pivot on the way out of Paphos, and met a goat riot on the way. Now, this is the route to the Phonicas Templar village. I did say to Jen, I somewhat doubt there's anything here from the Templars. But we came here for the views, and oh boy, the views. It's a weird optical illusion, but actually it's a sharp drop-off, and it looks like the path is miles long. But actually, once you've zigzagged down, it's not all that far. The reviews are about right. You need about 20 minutes if you jog, maybe half an hour if you walk, but ooh. As you get nearer, you can see the building constructions are kind of like steel and concrete, and oh look, called it again. Look, for reference, I know it's not exactly a like-for-like, but there's an abandoned medieval village in Devon that was deserted about the time of the Black Death, and it looks like this. So if this had been a Templar village, it'd be more like this than any Assassin's Creed super secret base. But hey, look, it makes for a great copy. And yeah, former Turkish Cypriot community that was abandoned after the 1974 war is a bit more of a downer to try and pull in tourists. And hey, it looks great in the wide shots, so I'm almost tempted just to let people believe this is a medieval ruin. You will not enjoy the hill back. I do hope this drop-off dissuaded anyone from taking their hire car down this trail. I mean, unless you're trying to execute some form of elaborate insurance fraud, I feel I hardly need to tell you, don't do it. We didn't have to drive far out of Paphos before the skies were exquisitely blue, like, screw you, sky, you couldn't just give it... You know what, whatever. Back to Larnaca and saw the aqueduct on the way back in. It's not a Roman or super ancient aqueduct, mind, it was built by the Ottomans, but cool, definitely a fan. Had dinner at this Greek-ish place, which was, look, crazy reasonable cheap and, yeah, really good. It was about time, too. Every city centre in Cyprus seemed to permanently smell of barbecue, so I was just so ready for some grilled meat. Well, had to run for this one, but up again at 5:30 AM and aha, there it is. Slight downside of catching the sunrise, not a lot of places open at 6 AM. Eventually decided that rather than drinking my coffee while walking around like a savage, I would sit down and drink like a savage. Back to Coffee Bicycle, wrote chunks of this script. Oh, this is different. Hi, future world. Now, it's about now that we have to take a time jump. We'll explain that in a bit, but the last significant part of Cyprus we saw before leaving, we had a few hours in Nicosia. This particular square where the taxi dropped us made me chuckle. It's the Davila Bastion, but the designers seem to be going for more of a welcome to the world of tomorrow kind of vibe. Pardon me if I don't have a lot of atmosphere shots of Nicosia. Truth be told, I'd done this stupid thing of assuming that 200 gig in memory cards would be enough for this trip, and it was not. So I was having to hugely skimp on what I aimed at, and I was saving the space for things like the Venetian walls or these. I'd almost say Nicosia was embarrassed by its Venetian walls. It's certainly designed enough things to get in their way. I mean, what do I always say about Venetian fortifications? It's always with the tennis courts, the football pitches, or like everyone else, using it as a parking lot. You ever get tired of being right? Well, if it feels like we're tailing off a bit here, it's because this is only half the story. The previous 2 days were spent exploring northern Cyprus, which is separated from the south by this big ominous DMZ running the length of the island. But as it turns out, well, you'll have to watch the next episode, but be prepared to be pleasantly surprised. The music you've been hearing in the background is ours. You can get it at bandcamp.com, and if you want to support the channel, that's the place to do it. Please also hit us up on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll catch you for the next one.